beautiful viewers from all over the world. Welcome to Today in the Dailies that's happening live on 24 News Radio and Television. I am Aiba Karina Wari and
I'm Bukola Comfort.
thank you for tuning and joining into this platform. We have the following newspapers with us. I have the Daily Independent newspaper.
I have the Nigeria Tribune.
I have Daily Trust newspaper.
I have the Guardian.
And I have the Punch newspaper.
I have the Leadership.
And others. First, let's look at the major headlines from the Daily Independent newspaper. Here says increased debt reliance as FG misses 2025 fiscal projections. Another headline says US to impose visa ban on Nigerians linked to anti-Christian violence. Here says NEC okays 100 billion naira for revamp of security training institutions. Senate proposes 2-year pupillage for new lawyers. AMCON defense relevance repays 3.6 trillion naira loan to CBN. General Musa confirmed as defense minister after Senate's rowdy session. I didn't resign over alleged plan to bomb my brothers. FEC okays 2026 to 2028 METEF projects 34 trillion naira revenue. Approves $100 million youth empowerment fund.
From the Nigeria Tribune, we have US to restrict visas for Nigerians violating religious freedom. Also from the Nigeria Tribune, Musa assures of winning war on insecurity as Senate confirm aim defense minister. CBN raises weekly cashes withdrawal limits to 500,000 scraps, cash deposits gap. FEX approved 2026 to 2028 MTEF projects 34.33 million revenue.
From the Daily Trust newspaper, this major headline says revised cash policy, real effects. It says insecurity, there are gaps within armed forces, General Musa. Senate moves to tie kidnapping act of terrorism. Fubara, lawmakers at loggerheads again. US to restrict visa for genocide supporters in Nigeria. You can pick up the Daily Trust newspaper if any of this headline interests you.
And from the Leadership, new defense minister says no to negotiation with terrorists. Contractor blocked Federal Ministry of Finance demands settlement of 5 billion naira debit. 5 million naira debt. I feel your pain. Bagos tell parents of abducted school children. If this suits you, you can find them on the Leadership newspaper.
And from the Punch newspaper here says NASS asks federal government to name terrorism financiers. It says FD unveils 54 trillion naira budget as debt service gobs 16 trillion naira. Voters register review begins as INEC closes registration. US company withdraws Nigeria's presidential jet from sale. Miners rejects governor's 6 months mining ban plan. AMCON repays 3.6 trillion naira loan to CBN. Abiodun presents 1.67 trillion naira 2026 appropriation bill to Ogun Assembly. Senate questions ministers on $30 million school safety project. 22 Lagos PSP operators fired for underperformance. And lastly, here says CBN ends cash deposit limits for bank customers. You can pick up the Punch newspaper if any of these headlines interest you.
Now, the news in details. From the Nigeria Tribune, we have US to restrict visas from Nigeria violating religious freedom. The United States government has announced a new visa restriction policy targeting Nigerians found to be involved in action that undermine religious freedom, particularly those linked to the alleged persecution of Christians in the country. This was disclosed by United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio in a post on X on Wednesday. Rubio explained that the US will restrict the visas of individuals who direct, support, finance, or participate in activities that violate religious freedom. The policy extends to government actors and non-state groups assessed to be responsible for religious persecution, including those operating within Nigeria. For more details on those news, you can pick up the Nigeria Tribune.
And from the independent newspaper here says increased debt reliance as FG misses 2025 fiscal projections. Nigeria's federally collected revenue rose significantly in the second quarter of 2025, but new data from the Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN) reveals that the government remains far off its ambitious fiscal projections, raising concerns about budget implementation, debt reliance, and sustainability of public spending. According to the CBN's latest quarterly economic report, gross federally collected revenue climbed 15% quarter on quarter to 8.3 trillion naira in Q2 2025. On the year-on-year basis, the increase was even stronger at 30%, reflecting the impact of improved tax administration, recovering corporate earnings and modest gains in oil receipts. Yet, despite the impressive uptick, total revenue from the quarter amounted to just 43% of the pro rata quarterly budget target of 19.5 trillion naira. A shortfall, analysts say, underscores Nigeria's persistent structural revenue weakness. Increased debt reliance as FG misses 2025 fiscal projections. You can pick up the independent newspaper for more details.
Still on the Nigeria Tribune, Musa assures of winning insecurity as Senate confirms in Defense Minister. Minister of Defense designates Minister of Defense designates General Christopher Musa has assured Nigeria that the country has the capacity to win the war against insurgency, kidnapping, and banditry insofar as there is holistic collaboration by all. Musa stated this with the right number of boots on the ground. It was required for Nigeria to work as a united country to defeat the criminals. Musa recommended that state governor in particular and other high-profile political office holders must collaborate with the armed forces in addition to deploying modern technology and adequate budgetary provision for the counter-terrorism war. The ministerial nominees were speaking on Wednesday when he appeared before the Senate in Abuja for confirmation screening. We can win this war, but we have to work together. If we collaborate with one another, it is very possible. Everyone, states, governors, we have to be on it, he told the senators. He promised to review all current security strategies and conduct a holistic investigation into why certain operations appears to have been compromised. Musa assures of winning insecurity as Senate confirms in Defense Minister. For more details on this news, you can pick up the Nigeria Tribune.
I strongly agree with Musa. It's all about collaboration, and I believe that if we collaborate together, Musa, the defense minister, and then the army officials or those in military, and even the laymen like us, if we collaborate together, then we can win the fight against the terrorists or
Yes.
Boko Haram or
It
whatever
only
they are
takes the
called.
power of collaboration for this to be done.
Yes.
Because if we do not cooperate with one another, there is no how this can be achieved. So we
Yes.
hope that his promises actually comes to see the light of the day.
Yes, we hope so that he will deliver as our
Yes,
new
as he
defense
promised.
minister.
Yes.
Yes. And from the punch here, we have adoption crisis. NAS asks FG to name terrorism financiers. The National Assembly on Wednesday called for the public naming and prosecution of terrorism financiers in Nigeria as the federal government explores measures to address the growing insecurity across the country. Both the Senate and the House of Representatives pushed for exposure of terrorism financiers during their plenary as a way of addressing the security crisis facing the country. The Senate also demanded capital punishment for kidnappers and anyone who finances, enables, or provides information to them. As lawmakers debated amendments to the 2022 Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act, the proposal sponsored by the leader of the Senate, Opeyemi Bamidele, seeks to classify kidnapping, hostage taking, and related crimes as terrorism. giving security agencies wider power to track, disrupt, and prosecute criminal networks across the country. Adoption crisis. NASS asks federal government to name terrorism financiers. You can pick up the Punch newspaper for more details. But do you think that the federal government will name or release the list of those actually financing this insecurity in the country?
Well, the answers remain unanswerable, if I must say so.
Okay, then.
So, from the Guardian newspaper, Senate reps adopt hardline anti-terror measure backs Musa. The Senate and House of Representatives yesterday moved to reset Nigeria's fallen security architecture, confirming General Christopher Musa as defense minister after intense scrutiny and approving far-reaching resolution banning ransom and amnesty, tightening weapons control and demanding stricter laws to curb terrorism and mass kidnapping. The Senate confirmed the former chief of defense staff after a tense 3-hour screening session marked by rare bipartisan firmness, loud protests on the floor, and renewed scrutiny of Nigeria's worsening insecurity. The Red Chamber, which firmly rejected initial calls for the nominee to take a bow and go, suggested Musa to excessive questioning on defense funding, intelligence failure, technology gaps, rising banditry, terrorist infiltration, and the circumstances surrounding recent military lapses and kidnapping. The section also coincided with the Senate's fresh move to classify kidnapping as a terrorist offense and impose the death penalty without an option of fine in an attempt to equip the incoming minister with a harsher legal deterrent. Senate reps adopt hardline anti-terror measure backs Musa. For more details on this news, you can pick up the Guardian newspaper.
And from the Punch here, it says US company withdraws Nigeria's presidential jet from sale. The marketing firm handling the sale of Nigeria's presidential Boeing 737 to 700 business jet has withdrawn the aircraft's listing. The jet, previously listed on the company's website, could no longer be found when our correspondent visited. In an email response to the Punch, manager of the market research at Jet HQ, Laurie Baringer, confirmed that the company no longer has the aircraft listed for sale and directed further inquiries to the Nigerian government. Thank you for your email. We no longer have the listing on the Boeing. You will need to reach out to the Nigerian government for information as to what has become of the aircraft. I appreciate your time. Laurie Baringa, Manager of Market Research, Jet HQ, the email read. US company withdraws Nigeria's presidential jet from sale. You can pick up the punch for more details. This one that they are asking us to go and ask our Nigerian government. Are we supposed to ask the Nigerian government, or are they supposed to release a memo letting us know that, oh, the jet is no longer for sale and this is what they intend to do with the jet? I feel this is another way for them to siphon money. But let's watch and see.
Let's wait and see what will happen.
Yes.
And this is the last newspaper coming from the Guardian. NTEF clears path for 2026 budget at FG review revenue gaps. The federal government has said the approval of the medium-term expenditure framework (MTEF) by the Federal Executive Council (FEC) provided a firmer basis to conclude work on the 2026 appropriation bill, even as it moved to manage capital rollover and close the persistent gap between revenue and expenditure. Responding to questions after the FEC meeting, the Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Atiku Bagudu, said the next step in the budget processing will follow established institutional process. According to him, President Bola Tinubu, a strong believer in institutional order, will transmit the budget to the National Assembly once it has been finalized and forwarded to him after the FEC's consideration. The National Assembly determines when they are ready to receive the budget, he said, noting that he approved. MTEF, now headed for the legislature, offer clear guidance for concluding the 2026 documents. MCEF clears path for 2026 budget as FGE reviews revenue gap. For more details on those news, you can pick up the Guardian newspaper.
And from the Daily Trust here, the headline here says revised cash policy, real effects. The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has revised cash related policies effective January 1st, 2026, removing all limits and fees on cash deposits. The development is already generating reactions from sections of Nigerians. While some believe it may increase illicit financial inflows ahead of the 2027 general elections, others say the policy may be good for citizens. Daily Trust reports that the central bank removed all limits and fees on cash deposits in an overhaul of cash management rules since 2022. From January 1st, 2026, customers will be able to deposit any amount of cash into the bank without penalties, marking a major shift from the regulators' previous restrictions designed to curb the economy heavy reliance on cash. Revised cash policy, real effect. You can pick up the Daily Trust for more details. And yeah, I strongly am on both sides. I believe and I agree that it may be because of the elections forthcoming. So they are trying to make a way for politicians to deposit money and then bring out money anyhow, withdraw money anyhow,
You
and
know,
also
this
it also like help the citizens to
thi-
in some way.
this issue is just
Mm.
like a two-sided thing.
Mhm.
Like it is, it has its advantage
And
and
it,
of
of course
course
it
the
has its disadvantage,
disadvantages.
and it's
Yes.
just for the politicians to gain. They gain anyway. Yeah. So that's all we have today from today in the dailies. I am Aiba Karinawari.
And I am Bukola Comforts. Dada. Enjoy the rest of the day. Bye.
Bye.